This video is brought to you by Craven's Comic Books and Collectibles. Check out their weekly live show, auction, and sale at facebook.com/Craven's Comics every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. And you can check out their inventory at cravenscomics.com. Craven's Comics, for the comics you crave. Welcome back, Hallea Jones.
Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
Pretty good. So season 2, of course, we knew at the end of season 1 that Eden was going to be a little different this season. And I'd have to say, aside from, like having still kind of, like a bad girl demeanor, this version of Eden eats people.
Well, I mean, here's the funny thing. I keep on saying, yeah, I ate the guy's face off or whatever. But I don't think Eden is a cannibal because I don't think she would have actually chewed and swallowed the guy's face.
Okay.
I think it was more like the kind of thing where she just ripped him to shreds until he just bled to death, and then she ate popcorn.
Oh, okay.
So that's something I've noticed a lot of people being like, she's a cannibal, demons are cannibals. And I was like, I don't think so. But it looks like it. And funny enough, the guy who plays Carl, the popcorn guy, is my friend Brett Houghton, and I've known him for years. So the fact that he got that role was just the most incredible, crazy thing ever.
So you felt very comfortable ripping his face off, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, in the first place, we were filming in September of last year when COVID was still pretty much a big thing. And I mean, it still is, but to be able to be that close with someone I know, it was a lot more comfortable for me than to be with, some stranger. So I felt really lucky to be able to do that scene with somebody that I'm close with.
Were you getting out any secret aggression towards him during that scene? I just, because if you're friends, sometimes.
No, I love him to bits. What's funny though is that I was showing my dad a lot of behind the scenes stuff because he was just curious, and I was like, I don't want to spoil it for you. But both my parents were like, oh, sorry, Kim Possible ringtone got me going. What's the sitch?
What's the sitch? Exactly. What's going on?
But both my parents were like, watching the show is only going to be 10 hours or less of watching, but this is 8 months of your work. We want to see what you're doing behind the scenes. We want to hear the stories. And my dad asked me one day, he's like, do you think the crew ever wonders where you get this aggression from, or where you get this crazy side of you? And I was like, first of all, I'm an actor. And that so many people play murderers and psychopaths and all of that fun stuff, and we've never done that before. It's about finding, I think, the deepest foundation of the human psyche and just kind of playing on the things that are natural to the human world but aren't accepted by it, obviously. Because if put into a state of being where you have to fend for yourself, you're going to fend for yourself. Just in everyday life, we don't typically get put into those positions. So we have those things and those abilities within us. We just don't act on them. So that's kind of, I guess, where I was finding parts of Eden. And then other parts just from watching things like Mean Girls, you know, and Jennifer's Body. Oh, Megan Fox and Jennifer's Body. Yeah.
There you go. No, definitely. Also this season, Eden's kind of in an abusive relationship with Gabe
totally.
here. And just feels very much like he's always hanging over her head that, he can take her out at any time. So what was it like playing that new dynamic with Griffin?
Well, it was so interesting because Griffin is one of the sweetest people I've ever met or worked with. And I felt so lucky to work alongside someone who has been in the industry since he was a kid, and B, somebody who's standard LA guy, but doesn't act like it. And it was really important for us to have really good communication because we do a lot of physically demanding scenes. For example, the strangling scene where he puts Eden up a wall. I was on wires and everything, and there was this like really big burly guy in the corner like pulling me up on a wire. I was like, am I too heavy for you? And he's like, dude, I bench like 500. I was like, okay, cool. But you know, for that, Griffin and I both wanted to make things as realistic as possible. And the problem with that is it can get really intense. But the most important part was that we had like very good communication, that we were constantly being like, hey, are you okay? Like, is this all right? Because I was always typically at the butt of the joke or the abuse. And it was really demanding in many ways. Like, it was definitely difficult to put myself in those situations because I'm the kind of person who would just like, and obviously for everyone who goes through abusive situations, everything is different for them. And it's really, really hard to go through that kind of thing and get out of it. Like, no questions asked. It's really difficult. And for me, in acting these scenes where she was definitely put into really, really compromising positions, like me, Hallea was like, oh, I would punch this guy in the face.
Yeah.
But when you're in an abusive relationship, it's really hard to do that. Like, it's really hard to defend yourself because they'll just come back stronger. And Gabe does come back stronger in many ways. I mean, we always joked about feeling like we were doing the same kind of scenes over and over again in different scenarios, because it was a lot of like that pushback and then him just threatening to kill Eden, and she'd be like, cool, can't do that. All right, that's where we're at.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely. But again, though, going through the similar situation over and over again, that's also very true to life as well in those situations. So,
Totally.
kudos that you guys captured that as well.
It's a very scary dynamic, that's for sure. My heart goes out to anyone who's actually going through that in real life. That's terrifying.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully not with a demon, but like a human version of a demon, very much so. They are out there.
Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, there may not be real demons in the world, but there kind of are at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
They just don't get conjured out of a well.
It's very true. And have machinations about running the entire planet and replacing people with other demons. And
I mean, hey, this might be a little bit controversial, but I think there are some people who are in politics who
Anyway. No, that's an astute observation. Very astute observation.
I mean, there's people everywhere like that, right? And everyone wants to run the world. But yeah, in this show, for the context that it is, it was interesting because I always kind of saw it as an abusive relationship since the beginning, but then watching it, like, it really struck a chord with me. I was like, holy shit, like, this is a really violent, like, relationship. And I guess I didn't feel that a lot when I was on set because Griffin's just so nice and we're like playing, you know? And then seeing it cut together and getting lost in like the realism of it, and the fantastical realism of it was really just like, you know, sometimes I forget that I'm a part of the show and I'm like, whoa. And then I'm like, whoa, that's not nice. So it's been really weird seeing it from that perspective too.
yeah, you bring up a great point, because like it's easy for those of us watching at home to forget that this is, you know, like you guys are actors and you're portraying it, and like because on one hand, I'm sure there's people out there that are like rooting against your character because she is a bad guy, right? So it's easy to just say, oh, okay, whatever. But you're right, like going through that, like in the real world sense of like people go through these difficult times so often and so frequently that we kind of forget that how terrible these relationships can be to one another.
And how they happen, how they like, it can be a slow gain, you know. I'm actually starting to watch this Netflix show called Maid, MAID, and it's incredible, and it talks a lot about abusive relationships and domestic violence. And one of the lines that has always hit is, first they bark before they bite. And with Eden and Gabe, I mean, he's constantly barking at her and he's threatening to bite, and you know, at one point, I think he tells the demon squad to just like go and kill. He tells Javi to go and kill Eden, and that's like a bite, but that's like putting it off on someone else, and that happens through manipulation of people and connections in their lives and stuff. When talking about reality of domestic violence, which I will say, I don't know too much about it, so I won't talk as like someone who is experienced to talk about that kind of thing. But from my perspective of playing a character in a abusive relationship, basically, it's really interesting to see the parallels there, in this fantastical world, and how it's resonated with people outside of it as well. So yeah, it's been interesting. I met English. I was at a thing in LA last week, and I got talking to this guy, and he asked me what I was doing in LA, and I told him I was here because the show just came out. I'm doing some press stuff and whatnot. And he's like, wait, Locke Key? Like the one that just came out like 2 weeks ago? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I binged that so fast. Who do you play? And I looked at him and I was like, really? And he was like, I have an idea of who you play, but I effing hated her. And I was like, that means I did my job, dude. That means I did my job. And it's interesting because some people love Eden and some people hate Eden. And it's interesting to see like different people's perspectives on the character. Someone in my acting class that I just started the other day actually came up to me and said that she found it really interesting how Eden, she felt as though Eden just wanted to fit in and she just wanted a home and a family. And I was like, girl, what? I'm okay. I didn't really I saw Eden as just like whatever happens, happens. Like, you know, I guess I didn't think too deeply into it like that, but it was so interesting to see her perspective on this character that I've played for the last 3 years. And I was like, okay, cool. That's interesting that read for you. It's so cool to see like different perspectives of my character. You know, it's super weird.
Yeah, no. When I watch it, I think, okay, in this season, Eden's kind of an underdog demon. Like has these demon abilities, but really doesn't know what she's doing, and just really wants a good meal. That's all. Like I've noticed that was the through line.
Yeah, she just wants a good burger. She wants a veggie burger. She's like ready. And Gabe keeps on being a dick. Yeah, it's crazy. I love her. I love her so much. It's the freaking joy of my life playing Eden, I'll tell you that.
No, it's awesome. But we of course we enjoy watching you play Eden. It's that's a ton of fun. And you mentioned when you were talking about how you know that other student was is talking about your character and how you found some of that surprising. Have you experienced that before, where you have your take and your vision of who the character is and what they are, but then the fan reaction could be something completely different, like from what you had initially saw? Do you encounter that often?
Well, it's interesting because I am fairly new. I guess you call it green, though I have multiple people say you're not green. But this is my first big show where I've been able to develop a character. So this has been my first opportunity, even myself, to get to know a character beyond like a few days of filming. And it's been interesting because when season 1 came out, the world shut down like a month later. So I haven't been able to talk to people like face to face about it. And there's only so much that people want to talk about online and whatever. But with season 2 coming out, which has been a complete shift of experience for me because the world's opening up again, my character is way bigger and there's so much more to talk about. I've definitely been having more conversations with people that have expanded my understanding of my character. Because for me, Eden was so like there. She was just there for me. Like it wasn't, I'm really excited in my career to sit down and really like fill up a notebook of analyzing a character. But I feel very lucky that one of my first jobs was the kind of job where I just felt like I got on set and she was there. Like she was just ready to play and she had, her ideas of where she wanted to go and how she wanted to do it and what she was going to do to get there. And my main thing of getting into character was a playlist I have on Spotify called Eden. And that really kind of tricked me into it. And like, I wear rings every single day. And even if it was like a 4 o'clock in the morning call time or like 6 in the morning kind of thing, I'd put on my rings at the start of the day. I'd drive to work. I'd take them off, put on the music, and read Eden's rings on. And that was my process. And it was interesting because, for example, the popcorn guy scene, when she says, "Want some?" During filming that scene, I just sat down in this childlike feeling. Like, it was just there. Like, I couldn't fight it. I wasn't going to be like, "You want some?" Like, look what I did. It was like, "You want some?" Like, look what I did. I did a thing. Like, that kind of thing. It was just there. And it was so weird. And some of the camera guys came up to me. They were like, "I was not expecting that." But it like worked, because my perspective was that she was a baby demon. Like, she's a baby vampire basically. And she has no idea what she's doing. She's just impulsively doing these things. It's like smelling blood for vampires. And it was really interesting to just find the intuitive experience of this character who I feel like, you know, I've worked towards playing my whole life of modeling and acting and all these things. And I'm really excited to see what my career brings me to next. But yeah, this is the first time I got to actually like fully experience a character.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's great that's you've gotten to be able to do that. I want to talk about something a bit more important though than Locke and Key. Something that personally affected you. I saw it on Twitter. The new CIBC bank logo.
You were going to bring that up as soon as you started saying it was on Twitter. Oh my God. I'm cheese, man. I'm mad. Okay. I grew up with the CIBC. Are you guys Canadian?
Yeah. We're based in the Toronto area.
Oh, so, sick. Okay. Yeah. You're probably my neighbor. Dude, what were they thinking? I don't know. I don't know why all of these freaking brands, all of these companies keep like saying, "Yeah, let's make it boring." You know, like, I just don't get it. And I see it on my phone now, like that little freaking thing, that diamond thing, whatever it is. And I'm like, where's the yellow? Where's the fun? Where's the joy? Like, who in the marketing world, advertisement world, is being like, yes, let's make everything boring? Yeah. I'm so heated about it. This stuff gets me cheese, man. I see a new logo and I'm like, that's dumb.
Now, how more pissed were you when Gideon, the CIBC rep, sent you that bogus tweet of like, we're concerned, we understand?
I literally looked at that and I was like, did you see my interaction with Meredith? She was like, well, at least he didn't toss you down a well. And I'm like, he tossed my childhood nostalgia down a well. Like, I'm like, is this a joke? Is this a prank? Like, did the person replying to this tweet right now watch the show and intentionally go, I know how to make her day even worse? I couldn't believe it. I seriously could not believe it. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, what? Yeah.
No, that was...
Honestly, I can't blame you. I noticed it for the first time just like a couple weeks ago, and because I have a branch right near my house, like 2 minutes away, and I saw them changing the sign, and I was like, oh, I just guess they're doing, fixing the lights or whatever. And then I came back like 2 days later and saw the new logo. I didn't know.
Guys, I think we need to riot. I think we need to like stand up against it. We need to just stand outside with like, change back the good logo. Change back to the good logo. Stop ruining nostalgia. Stop ruining art. Like, honestly, there have been so many companies who have done this, and I just don't get it. I just don't.
I don't know. Maybe big business just really loves cubes and squares, because it appears that every symbol is just becoming some version of a square.
I know. That was also another one I tweeted, so I'm guessing you saw that one too. I was like, why does everyone like just like circles and cubes and stuff? Like they're boring. They all look the same. It's like they're trying to dumb it down for us. Like I fear so much the way in which the world is going towards dumbing things down for people, because people are smart. And I mean, like not everyone, but I know fair share of some people. But
some people are smart. Yeah.
But people are smarter than I think a lot of like big businesses give them the benefit of the doubt. And like it's just when it comes to this kind of stuff where they're like making it minimalism, I wonder, I'm curious of how that affects the psychology and how our brains start to interpret things. If we're only seeing minimalist design, we're not looking at the intricacies of art anymore. To the degree at which our brains used to. So I'm wondering if that could potentially affect our cognitive function or anything of that kind. I'm just very curious about that. I'm obviously not a psychologist or a sociologist. So anyone who is a sociologist or psychologist and knows anything about this, hit me up. I'd be very curious to chat.
That's awesome. Oh, man. Well, I think you've given us all some food for thought. And when you do plan your CIBC protest, let me know.
I will.
I'll see if I can join in.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming back on the program. It was great having you on, and I look forward to more projects from you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Have yourself a great night.
Yep, you too. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks.
See ya.